Okay, welcome to One Stop Co-op Shop. Steve, I'm here with Bairt and Canje.
Hello there. Guess what? Bone saws ready. Dig it. We were talking off street a little while ago, and we were talking about Macho Man and some of his best lines. So that's why I couldn't resist. It's one of my favorite lines of movies. It's just amazing. Anyway, good to have everybody here. It's great to be here. It's an early morning, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock here, 9 o'clock your time. Canje, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Steve looking
Right
smooth.
on. You should be on top of the world. It was like Sworn week for you finally.
Because remember, I gotta paint all that crap now, so
That's true.
now begins the daunting task.
You will be
The
busy.
piles of opportunity.
Yeah, no. But I'm doing well. Steve, you looking smooth. What, you got a haircut? You shaved the beard? What's going on?
No, better camera.
It's amazing what a camera can do. I gotta put my camera. I'll be right back.
Like, man, you looking like new money.
Wow. I gotta find that camera. Off-screen camera. Steve and I are going to talk about new cameras. That's going to be the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, if it's been a camera I've had for a while, but I haven't been able to use it because I ran out of ports. But now I've got the new system, computer up and running for the most part. So, yeah, upgrades.
Nice.
Look at that.
I need the 30-year-old filter is what I need.
Gosh, Marcel. You do look extra smooth. Wowie. So, but no, welcome. This is our co-op chat. This is our weekly live chat. It is normally rambunctious off the walls, but we talk about board game topics and with a cooperative slant, usually. So.
Even though the first 3 minutes weren't even close to about board games. We do talk about board games. We're excited about board games. I did mention the word Sworn, so I guess that's half the battle.
There you go. That's all you have to do. You got to say a board game name or mention board games at least within 5 minutes, and then we're
That's right. I mean, there's also some other great games like Myth. And
I was waiting for it. It's got to be Myth.
Myth has to come up every single time. It has to.
U-boats out there.
Yep. Excellent. Well, today's topic, we're going to talk about reviewer bias. It's a topic we discussed last week, and we didn't get through all of them. Also, it was kind of hectic last week, so...
We tried a thing, it didn't work, and now we know.
Yeah, it's really hard to play a game without talking about it and discuss a heavy topic while also monitoring chats and streams and health and all that stuff all at the same time. Too many balls in the air. So.
I think the best part was every time somebody had to tell me to go, and then I didn't even know what I was doing.
Hey, I killed this, so no harm,
Bairt,
no
your
foul.
turn. Oh, okay. How do I play this? I haven't played in a while.
Excellent. Okay, let's just dive into it. Start talking about some biases. So,
biases? Is that the plural?
Biasi?
Biceps?
Biceps, there you go. That sounds accurate.
Because, Macho Man had some biceps.
Bone saw.
I think he passed away. I think he did.
Yeah, he died in the car accident.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. I knew it was something. Too bad. Anyway, let's talk about our biceps.
Let's talk about biceps, yes. Okay, so I'm going to do a recap a bit from last week in case that was hard to follow, which I don't blame people, but we'll go over it. So I'll go through the first ones fairly quick, and I'll get into some fun discussions around it. So the first one I'll bring up is leniency bias and severity bias. And so these are the two sides of the coin. Leniency bias is when you have a tendency to always rate higher than usual, and a severity bias means you tend to rate things lower. And you see these a lot if you use Board Game Geek, for example, in your rating system. You might see like your average rating is always like, I rate a lot of games 7s or whatever, and I rate a lot of games 5, for example. And everyone has their own shift or a median of their scale that moves around. It's not good or bad, just something to be aware of. So everyone has it.
Well, what caught Help me out with that. Help me out with that one. What causes that type of bias? Is it just someone says I will never down a game, so I will always give it a 7, or is it that someone likes a publisher, so no matter what, they're going to give them a high score?
It's kind of like the mom bias as well.
The mom bias, yes.
I couldn't resist. Oh, horrible, man. I'll come back. I'm serious, man. Now.
But what is like? Give me an example of what causes that.
This is just from my own observations. I do a lot of research stuff in my work, so I do see a lot of ratings and people as people evaluate some concepts. But I think it comes down to the high and low ends of a game. Like 10. Well, nothing's ever really a 10. There's always something wrong with it. So I will never. I'll shift my entire scale down a little bit. Other people are like, yeah, this is great. I'll rate a 10. Or same thing on the end. Like I'll never rate something a 1 because there's always something good about it. And then so then like I think that has something to do with it, where that will shift the entire scale around. Because if you never rate something a 10, then your highest rating 9 is essentially your 10, right? And so it shifts around because of that.
Yeah, it's kind of like Spinal Tap that always plays at 11.
Spinal Tap, yes. Hey, Marcel got the reference of the mom bias.
I know when we were talking about this one, I think I do have that kind of bias. I think the lowest game I've ever rated is like a 4, and that was Dungeon Alliance. Other than that, everything's like a 7 through 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just that when you're looking at ratings,
so you just gotta know when I rate a game what you're getting.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. It. Like if I know that someone has a tendency to be harsher to games overall, so I know that whatever they say is probably gonna be lower than someone else I talk to. Now internally, it's consistent. It's not like you're internally inconsistent with how you rate things. It just that means if I compare between what I rate something, what Bairt rates something, what Canje rates something, you'll see some differences just due to this bias.
Marcel asked the question for Bairt.
Yeah. Do you think, Bairt, that you can't rate below 4 because you're just a nice guy?
Yeah. It's called Minnesota Nice. We can never say anything bad about people. We always just say good things, unless you're a Green Bay Packer fan. It's football week this week. Sorry, I have to get that.
Yeah, I don't think.
I think it's because I'm a nice guy. I think a lot of it, and then also when it comes to board games, I just know how much passion and time and effort a lot of people put into these games, and it's just really breaks my heart to like put something way down. Sure. But on the flip side, like Steve's saying, if I don't at least openly, objectively do something, I could steer people in the wrong direction, thinking like, "Oh my gosh, Bairt gave this 10; it must be fantastic," and it might not be that type of game for them. But I still thought it was great because I'm just a nice guy. I know Colin has this bias as well. He also has a hard time saying a lot of bad things about games. He's in general. I know he and I are really more of a positive people when it comes to games in general. I think I mentioned it last time. A lot of the reasons why we don't do reviews, Colin and I don't really do many reviews, is because we'd rather just let the game stand on itself and let you see the mechanics and see how it's played, and then make your own judgment on it. I think it's kind of how we try to do things. We don't like, because we know our biases, and we know that we don't want to lead a lot of people astray and just have them be stuck with things they're not interested in.
And Snow has a comment too that I think is worth discussing here. It says, if you use the BGG guideline to rating, you really need to dislike a game, or the game has to be broken, to be rated below 4. Which is true. Like, they have their own system in place that I don't know how many people follow it, and I know for a fact some people just don't. And that will also, due to their descriptions, I don't think a lot of games are going to fall within some of those criteria. So that's going to bias their whole scale up or down because of that reason.
Yeah, I think like with the BGG stuff, I go read what people wrote that they didn't like about it rather than just look at the whole number.
Agreed.
And if I see someone rate it low but don't say why, I ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just kind of like read people's comments and how they felt the game played to see if they do have that bias, or they're like, or this game just wasn't for them, so they rated it low.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so that's a pretty easy one to talk about. Let's talk about another one that's got a dichotomy to it: a Halo bias and horns bias.
I play Halo. I like Halo.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Like I was just waiting for it.
I listened to my turn last time because I didn't do that joke last time.
Yeah, so Halo bias is tendency to give favorable things due to strong performance in some specific areas. So it might be like, hey, I really like deck building mechanic. And so any game with deck building in it is automatically going to get a really high score because of that reason. As opposed to like, I like deck building, which is fine to like it in a game, but also still rate the rest of the game appropriately, right? Don't let one specific thing about a game affect the whole score without actually looking at each individual pieces. And that goes both ways. Halo tends to do a strong favorable ratings due to something you like in one specific area, and Horns is the opposite. I really hate, I don't know, apps in games, so I'm gonna give this a 1 just because it has the app in it, right? As opposed to like, hey, well, it's an app and I don't like, that's fine. Just discuss that one, but also rate or talk about the game as it stands on its own.
Okay. Does that also have to do with publishers as well? Like because you like the publisher, or is that a different bias?
That is a different bias.
Okay.
Yeah, this is specifically within the system itself. Whatever it is,
Okay.
There's something in there that you really really hate, and now the whole game's garbage. So
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Oh, I hate this art. Now the whole game's garbage, and it's bad. Not exactly useful. So, and yes, nice elbow close up. Marcel says.
Yeah, I know. There's a big bug on my painting table. I'm trying to get rid of it, and I'm deathly afraid of bugs. So this isn't doing a good job.
Oh no. But yeah, so that one's an interesting one. I don't really see this happening too often, to be honest. I think it tends to come up in just casual conversation, but I think in reality, people would sit down and review or rate games. I don't think this really is a factor very much.
I mean, I don't think they'd rate it. I think it's like you said, they'd stay away from it so they don't have to rate it.
Yeah.
Right. So if someone hates a deck building mechanic, they will avoid deck building games. Therefore, they will never rate a deck building game.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that's another one we can talk about too. A good tie-in. The selection bias, right? Like I like this type of game, so I'm gonna buy it. So now all my ratings would be higher overall, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean this comes up a lot when it talks about reviews for board games. Like, why aren't there more negative reviews? Well, I mean, I play games I like, right? So that's the
I don't
goal.
play games I don't like.
I mean, ultimately, yes, you will come across games you don't like, but I mean, that's the crux of the situation.
That's the stepping out the comfort zone times where you step out. But by the time you I know a lot of content creators, they will play the game offline before they play the game online,
right?
And they know by then whether they're gonna feature it on their channel or not.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the other issue too. Is there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes with covering game in any type of medium you do. There's a lot of work behind the scenes, and so putting forth a lot of work for something that is just going to be painful and not enjoyable it's a hard pill to swallow. It's hard and difficult to do.
Yeah.
I think that's where the short reviews come into play. Like, for example, Mike's 5 and 5. No, it's just 5 minutes. Those are pretty quick to put together, and it's not as much work as a longer review format. So that one's not as bad to cover like a negative content. But yeah. Okay, so since you brought it up, let's talk about comparative bias. So this is where like I don't like this publisher, so all their games are bad. You're rating the game based upon oh sorry, is that the right one? Yes. Yeah, based upon oh sorry, that's primacy bias. I think it's messed up. Sorry, primacy bias is the one it is. So this publisher has done simple games or games with too many minis or whatever it is. So now I'm not going to like any of their games, or I'm going to come to play thinking that this game is going to be bad. I'm not going to like it. So
yeah, I'm starting to develop that, and I'm trying to I recognize it and I'm trying to curb it, but I'm starting to recognize that for Steam Forge games. Like I'm starting to be like, okay, it's a Steam Force game. I'm not gonna like it. Like my brain is immediately going to that context, and I recognize it, so I'm trying to like say no. Not all Steam Force games are gonna be the same.
Right.
You gotta do your research and see if it fits into the stuff that you like, and then see if you'll like it.
Exactly.
They're not all going to be Horizon Zero Dawn. True.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, parents. I feel so bad about that one.
Well, on the flip side, though, I'm just the opposite because I do still have Bairt Song, which is a Steam Forge game, and I'm giving him another shot with Resident Evil. So we're gonna see how this continues to go. But
and I think that's the one where I'm actually waiting for you to do your play of Resident Evil, so I can see it, because I like the IP.
Yeah.
So if they get it right, I'll be like, okay, all right, then it's just a bias I'm building, and I need to change I need to be more mindful and change my mindset.
Which bias is this? Are we talking about the Call of Duty bias now? Because we did Halo already.
No, primacy bias. So primal bias? Maybe? I don't know. It was on chat, so. Yeah, and Marcel says, I guess for reviewers, it's also very important to remain open-minded. Which is...
Yeah, it is. It is only because... Well, so here's the thing. So you see, the thing is this.
It's a double thing here, yeah. Go for
it. We do have to remain open-minded, but we're open-minded to the genres we like, right?
Yeah.
So you won't... What's a game that I will not play? And it's just not because I just won't play it.
It'd be a Othello.
Role-playing
I've
games?
played Othello.
Okay, yeah.
I played D&D. So, but I think it's more there are games that we feature on our channels that we like and we gravitate towards. Like, Steve, you're gonna play. I almost said Sniper Elite. It's not that. What's it called?
Stealth. We like stealth.
Stop it. Oh, there we go. Yeah. I won't play a stealth game.
There you go.
You won't see a stealth game on my channel on purpose, and so therefore, it's more than if people are asking for, well, what do you think of this stealth game? I'm gonna say I'm not a big fan of stealth, so therefore I steer away from it. So it's not that I have to be open-minded. It's just I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I'm still figuring out what I like. Mm-hmm. So I steer away from things I don't like.
Yeah,
totally get it. I steer clear of things I don't like.
That's like nothing, Bairt.
So. It's not that on my channel you're going to see, I know, predominantly dungeon crawlers, but and big adventure games and things like that, because I love those huge open, like, big things. But it's not that I don't play other games. I mean, a lot of times when I'm doing stuff off stream, it's small, fun little games that are one shots with my wife and kids, or say I go to Colin's, or Colin comes here and we play games with him and his family or stuff like that. They're really always usually just the one shots. When Colin and I sit down to play a game, it's a huge giant extravaganza. But when we're not playing with just the two of us, or even on our own, that's when we bring out like the small little happy games.
Games? A question about Euro games from Marcel, because we don't see a lot of Euro games on our channels.
You will on mine.
Yeah, you cover them decently, Canje. I know you don't see a lot on the one we do, but that's mostly just because there's not many Euro cooperative games when it comes down to it.
Yeah, it's a lot of competing. Mm-hmm. A lot of competing.
Yeah, we enjoy them, the stuff at our house, but it just we need more. You need more Euro cooperative games. Most of them are hybrids, really.
Yeah. Would you consider Frostpunk a Euro? Because it's co-op, but would you consider Frostpunk a Euro game?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, the issue with Euro games when it comes to cooperative is a lot of them are VP based, victory point based, and at least for me, that's the negative, because I don't like beat my own score with a cooperative one. I like having a goal in mind. And of course, there's exceptions of it, and it still works fine. It's one of those preferences I have.
Yeah,
victory points, Marcel. So.
like when we're talking about this, the most common game I play off stream are detective games, are crimes, figure out the crime games. That's the most common game I play off stream. We've gone through all of Detective, all of Detective City of Angels, every expansion. We love to get those little ones from Target where it's like To Catch a Killer, things like that. That's like one of our most favorite things to do off stream when I'm not streaming it, mainly because why would you ever do one of those online? People would be like, oh, I don't want to know anything about this. And I get like 4 people to watch it because nobody cares. They don't want things like that spoiled. When it comes to big giant adventure games, some people don't mind having the first few, like a little bit of it spoiled, or they're playing it and going along with you. So it's a lot more fun to do stuff like that. So, I mean, it's not like I don't like these other types of games. A lot of the times I just don't think they would fit. Euros, sometimes got to draw a line.
Yeah,
no,
I don't mind them.
Let's do Euros back here. I do. Honestly, I do.
Yeah, I don't mind them. I mean, Terraforming Mars, I love Terraforming Mars, and that's was it TP point base, which is victory point base. But I like that. I played that game. I like that game. So I think I don't mind it as long as I mean I get what y'all are saying. You want to get to a goal. I do like to kind of beat my score, but I want to play against something or someone. I don't want to be okay. I'm just doing this to get a high score instead of I'm doing this to beat an AI. Or I'm doing this to accomplish this goal.
Yeah. And there's exceptions for me with that as well. Like Nemo's War. Solo game I absolutely love. Love that game. But for me, it's more about the adventure than about the actual score at the end for me. So
I've never played it.
Same with Robinson Crusoe.
Yes. I like so I play so is that considered Euro? Is Robinson Crusoe considered Euro?
I would say so. You roll a die, yeah, big deal. That's not really no.
I thought that was like the distinguishing factor. Is like if there's dice in it, it's not a Euro. Is that true? I don't know.
It's a meeple, it's a Euro. Is that the deal?
I don't know.
Maybe it's worker placement. Robinson Crusoe, it's worker placement game, so it's. But I don't know. Is it a Euro? I'm not really sure. It's a tough one.
All signs.
I mean, like U-boat. Is that a Euro? That's worker placement, but it's a weird situation.
A super tough game.
Yeah, those are both super tough.
Yes.
Yeah, and Snow mentioned at one time Euros tended to be more deterministic, but I think that is no longer the case. Oh yeah, Marcel's like back to biases. Let's go. Yes.
Okay. Biceps. Back to biceps.
Go back to biceps.
We'll talk about Euros.
This is our. If y'all are wondering if like, okay, this is us just kind of. This is how we talk. Like we talk during the week. We chat with each other, and we just talk about arbitrary crap like this.
You love them, Marcel.
Nice.
Don't make me take my shirt off first.
The beach is that way.
I can already see my wife rolling her eyes when I said that.
Okay, let's do another fun one to talk about. Recency bias. So and this one ties directly, pretty heavily into hype, honestly. Brand new game. This is the greatest thing ever. This is just at my table. I love it. This is awesome. Yeah, this is definitely probably one of the biggest bias that people bring up.
Yeah. And I do it. I fully admit that I have that bias.
I think most people do it, for sure. And it's a tough thing to do because, especially when doing content creation, it is desired to have content related to a game that just came out as soon as possible. And so how do you avoid that recency bias when you have to output stuff that quickly? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
And the hardest thing about this one is the fact that usually when you get it, you're enthralled with what the game is providing, and you don't get far enough into the game to see some of the issues that it could have.
Right.
And so it's kind of like watching the first episode of The Witcher or something, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely amazing. And okay, here's a really good example that is going to date me big time. The band Sponge, right? They bring out a song called like Molly, and I'm like, that's a really great song. And they put out another song, Wax a Static. Oh, wow, that's a great song. I got to get their album. The rest of the album is just garbage. And I'm like, what? And so I pay, like, this is back when you had to buy albums. They were called albums. And you get these, they either come on these, or they come on these little circular things that you would stick into this thing, and you'd have to get shock absorbers so you could play them in your car without them skipping. this is what you used to do back in the day. You wouldn't just buy a song, or you would just subscribe to Amazon Music or something. You had to buy these albums. So
you have to buy it. You have to buy a tape with a strip with a connector
on
it. You have to plug into the CD
exactly.
player.
It's kind of like when you go get movies, same thing. Except you got to go to the beta section or the VHS section. All of a sudden, the beta section got real small, and you're wondering why you still have 2 of them in your house. That was the problem. So anyway, that's like kind of the deal. You're super excited. You hear the song on the radio, you go to buy the album. The rest of the album isn't even close to what that song is. It's kind of the same type of deal. You get this game, you start playing, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. But by the time you get like the 3rd mission or something, like, I'm doing the same thing. But I've already said how cool this game is because I've only played the first 2.
Yeah. Which is why I push heavy on story and lore for games. Because the mechanics will get, if you just look at mechanics, they get samey quick. But if the story is pushing, if the narrative is really strong, you don't care because you want to see what happens next.
That's interesting. I have a little bit different experience. Like, I love story, of course, but like for me, if the interactions of the mechanics is different, there's enough variety where like, oh, yes, I know what this does mechanically, but now this plus this other thing is a new recipe. It provides a new experience for me in that sense. And I lead that towards like Marvel Legendary is a big one for me for that. It's got like 28 expansions at this point, it's ridiculous. But the mechanics, there's only a few keywords in each set, but then there are unique cards in each character, and each unique card, like internally within itself, are really cool. That's a fun experience. But then now when I combine this card with another card outside the set, it does something very, very different. And so
I mean, the mechanics has got to be decent,
right?
At least for you to stick with it. I'm not saying like horrible mechanics, but with the story, then it'll play. I think more it's you can have that variety, but even that has a margin of diminishing returns.
It does.
So there's only so much ways that you can fit the puzzle piece in, right? Before it becomes, but if the narrative keeps, it still stays good. So for instance, I'll name a game that you both love, Sword and Sorcery, right? The mechanics are consistent. Sometimes they change, sometimes they're still the same, but you know these are the things that you're doing during your turn each time. But what brings you back to it? Does the mechanics bring you back to buy the next expansion, or does the story? Does the narrative?
The stories, and what are these new enemies going to do?
Fair enough.
That's very similar to me and Madara. I'm really excited to see like what I'm going to be fighting new enemies. Let's see how these enemies react and how they're going to.
Fair enough.
It's a chess game in that situation. Not to mention, I got these new cool sparkly powers. I want to see what they do, kind of thing. For me, I know that Oathsworn is going to stay in my collection forever because, sure, I'm still battle flowing. I'm fighting with these same cards. I'm rolling these dice or drawing these cards. The thing that's making me excited about this is every time I'm fighting a different enemy. Now, on the flip side, why do we keep coming back to Kingdom Death? I really want to see how I'm going to be able to survive in this world and want to see how this civilization grows and develops.
Narrative.
It's a different experience because I'm still fighting the same lion 4 times. But again, even then, having a difference in the amount of cards that this lion has, it makes the lion do something a little bit different. It's going to have the same basic structure and it's going to try to do things, but I never know what's coming. So it's kind of an interesting way of almost a reverse chess game where I'm almost trying to react more as being active. Does that make sense? So and like I've said it before, every game back here I have, a lot of them play on the same theme. A lot of them play on the same things, but there is usually in here a mechanic I don't have in another game that makes me excited to play it.
Yeah, and usually mine, I have games that have similar mechanics.
These are very similar.
Yeah, but their stories are different. Like, Marvel Champions, Arkham Horror, Lord of the Rings,
Stars Vicarios. I mean, totally different.
but you put those 3 games. You put those 3 games together. The mechanics are similar, slightly different stuff. The Arkham Horror with the Bag of Death, and Lord of the Rings with the Deck of Death. So, but slightly different mechanics. But once again, the narratives in each one of them is what really pulls me into the game. But I see what you're saying. Darren. That makes sense.
I'm just waiting for Terrence to drop some comments about that later. So, Terrence is our resident LCG expert. He loves them all, and You know his thoughts on them. So
Yeah.
Oh my, what?
On what?
I'm a what?
No, he said Terrence will drop something in on
Oh,
them later.
Terrence, yes, yes. Oh my gosh, Terrence is
Yeah.
amazing.
yeah,
He is a person that needs to. Terrence is a very metagamey person when it's kind of, he tries to find the optimal play all the time, which is another is a really interesting way to play with it. I can't say enough about playing with Terrence. It's absolutely amazing. He is so fun to play with
he is.
because he really is like that master chess player when you're playing games like he'll see what could potentially not be the optimal play or something that could put which like he could see like 4 steps ahead kind of thing. So it's really cool to see that kind of action in play in somebody.
Yeah.
I do want to pull up this comment from Snow that she made earlier. I think it's a really good one. It says, also, one thing that pushes recency bias is the trend that games are hot when they come out, and 6 months later, no one cares or even remembers the game.
That speaks to that. That definitely speaks to it. There's a lot of games that people get hyped for, and then, like just like Snow said, it's like it can't. And I think somebody, I can't remember which content creator said it, but someone said that they don't get hyped for like the hotness anymore. They wait a while, and if the game's still around or still being talked about, that's when they start looking into it.
Yeah, that's for sure. It, and I also wonder if that ties a little bit into your mechanical mechanics discussion or point, Kanji, because if you go in there wanting a new mechanic, and after a while, like you said, mechanics get old. You know, it's not you don't can't discover a whole lot new after you learn the system, right? And so, will that lead towards the culling? Try to get that same injection of new mechanics from a new game, and so after 6 months you don't return to it. Maybe it's true. I don't know. I know for me, that's not. I don't think it's true for me. I just sat down and played a game that's more than 10 years old. I just put it was on my table just last night. We were playing it, so
Is
I
it
return
myth?
to old games regularly, but I don't know if that's true for everyone.
Yeah, it's kind of like Marcel said. There's, I mean, same type of things go with movie and books. You get
Yeah,
all these movies come out, but sometimes only the cult classics and like the like ones like keep coming back to you. Like we could watch Goonies anytime. Awesome. It was
yeah,
just like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
pandemic on the table. You'll be
yeah,
able to play.
I could watch Predator and the first Terminator anytime.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah, yeah. For
exactly.
sure, for sure.
Exactly, 100%. Because I ain't got time to bleed.
More
I
great
get tired of playing.
blood!
That's great. That's another good one, Snow. I know that even though I play many older games, I talk less about them just because I know most people wouldn't care for me to talk about them, which is it's very true. So you see that with content creation as well. Like right now, I'm playing through Pandemic Legacy Season 0. The metrics on those videos pretty bad, honestly. But it's an old game. Like why?
I think you got two strikes there, Steve. You got two things going against you. One, it's an older game. Two, people that haven't played it don't want to see it. You know what I mean? I
Exactly.
think it's when you're gonna one of my top streams that I did when I originally started streaming was Alien Legendary. The game's ancient. I mean, but people love to see that game come out because that got that cult following, that great people know that that's a good game. And so people want to see that game. They want to see how did you get through the scenario? How did you make it? Like kind of thing. How did you build that deck? You know what I mean? It's those I think the less campaign games that are older that have a big following still hold true. People will still enjoy watching those, as a content creator. I think that's one thing that really Colin has strived for right now because he's able to take a step back away from those big Kickstarters because Mike is kind of leading the forefront in that. And so he's been able to bring out these his Zaya campaign was so much fun to watch and enjoy because he would have never done that in the past because he would always need to feel like he needs to stay up on it. So it's having that diversity in the group has also helped that as well. My goal was to do an older game once a month, but it's just fallen to the wayside because I get enthralled so much, like you said, in this new game syndrome that I want to play it. I want to play the next mission. I want to play the next mission. So I'm just streaming or recording these next missions. Like I got Dungeon Universalis. It's not a new game, but the new edition just came out, and it's actually coming to Kickstarter again September 20th. So I want to play a lot of that because I'm really into what that's doing right now. If that makes sense.
Snow has a good comment here. It says if Colin pulls out Lord of the Rings LCG, people will still be interested because that game is huge in the hobby, and I think that's true. There's a lot of communities out there around certain games, and you pull out those games, you see those community members pop up, and they're interested in the
Arkham
game.
Horror, you pull Arkham Horror, a lot of people watch it. Like I just said, Legendary, a lot of people watch it. They just love
Legendary United has one too, and
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot of them out there. So, a question for
Yeah.
you, Marcelo says, how are you going to fight your own bias in the next month, and what game will you bring to the table stream to exercise that?
I won't. I'm sorry,
I
I won't.
don't think
I can.
yeah, I don't think I have that. I have the newness syndrome hype, but I don't think I have the newness bias because I'm playing Robinson Crusoe right now, and that came out like 2016,
Mhm.
I think, the version that I have. So it's more, but I got into gaming late, right? So I wasn't playing gaming when a lot of games that Barrett's been mentioning have come out, and I don't know about a lot of them. But I just learned about a game called Iron Helm. Knew nothing about it, but it's been around for a while, and so now I got it, and I'm gonna play it. So it's more, I the newness stuff comes in for me. Like you'll see new stuff on the channel. I'm not trying to. I'm not in the. And I think Steve, you and I talked about this. Like we're in the hobby for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Barrett said that too. He's in the hobby for the fun of it. We're not in the hobby to make this a career. So the people who are, I let them handle that stuff. But games like Oathsworn, I mean, if you've ever heard me talk about this game, you know how hype I am for it. But the next game that comes out, like Aeon Trespass Odyssey, I want to play it, but I'm not going to play it day one. So I don't have that bias of I have to feature it first, if that makes sense.
And I think that ties into
Did
what
somebody
you're.
pick up Kanji's body? What's going on in there?
I don't.
Seriously?
I don't. I've because I'm trying to get through this pile of stuff. I've got like games.
First off, I don't think Aeon Trespass coming anytime soon. But when that thing hits, I'm going to be doing an unboxing, and I'm going to be doing a painting session probably that night. I'm super pumped.
But however, in the same vein, I'll talk about games like and I saw someone start talking about it, but Hoplomachus Victorum. When I saw it played, I was like, I want to play it. So it might bump itself up a little higher than another game that's on the top of my stack, and that's okay too.
I think a big thing about it is why are you making content, right? And if you're doing it and your goal is the metrics on YouTube, then you're going to produce a similar type of content, which is the latest, greatest games, new games, upcoming games. Those are what drives the numbers. And like the three of us already talked about here, that's not really what we're trying to do. Like, yes, if you want to grow the channel and get really big, that's exactly what you need to do. But for us, we are here to have fun and kind of show a different side of things. So I think from that standpoint, we do have we can avoid some of that recency bias in a sense. But I will also add another comment here. There's one thing that I've been thinking about is the reviews. A lot of times people want to get the content out as soon as possible when the game comes out, and I think the top 5 reviews we do, the 5 things you need to know about a game, are great for that. But the top 5 reviews don't cover everything. It's only the highest, the most important things you need to know. There's a lot more that you can discuss about it. I have a list of 10 factors I look at for each game, and it kind of breaks it down to much more detailed analysis. And so I've been thinking about doing this, and I've getting a little. I keep pushing it off because I get mixed feedback from different people. But doing a look back review, like 6 months later, coming back to a review I did and say, hey, am I still playing it? How my thoughts have? So let that recency fade away, and you can bring about the more in-depth discussion at that time too.
Huh. I was thinking, no, that is a fantastic point. I wonder, I should talk to Mike about that. I wonder if that's kind of what he uses. I would almost think when in terms of Mike, because Mike does a lot of reviews. The only reason I'm using him is because he's kind of the reviewer on our channel more than anybody else. He does his 5 and 5, which is absolutely a fantastic concept. I watch him all the time to see if I'm interested in the game because I know his style and I know that I kind of gravitate towards it. And then you watch his shelf life, and then you can kind of go back and see, that almost seems to me kind of like his return to his reviews. You know what I mean? Because he's the game or not have the game. And there's 2 reasons he probably doesn't have it anymore. One, he's played enough of it and he knows he's won it and he doesn't need it anymore. Or two, yeah, it didn't hold up. But like, and I know one of them was like he had a huge thing for Tainted Grail. Like he came out, gave it a glowing review, and like in the first shelf stories, called
Game of the year and out of my collection.
Well, and I know that there's been games that I have like that too, where I'm like, oh my gosh, this game is super, super good. And then once I got to playing it, I wish I would have done it. I think for me, a lot of times you can either see that I've come away from a game because the campaign has not continued, or I didn't go too far into it to find out that might not have been a game for me. Or the flip side is I have somebody else who wants to play it, and I do not want to spoil it. That's the two reasons you may not see a game come back to my channel. Because I do have two gaming groups I play with. And so there's like when I first started the channel, the only reason I was playing the games I was playing is because the people I was playing with didn't want to play the games. And I was like, well, crap, I have Seventh Continent and nobody wants to play this game with me. So if you notice, I think that was my second game I ever did. And Folklore was my third game I ever did. And the reason I did it is because my wife and I had already gotten past that part in the game. And so I didn't mind playing it, but I didn't go too much farther because my wife has not played that game with me up. She hasn't gotten past to the next point. Madara, nobody's gonna play a game with me, so I can play to my heart's content. It's totally fine. I have no problem soloing 4 guys. But when it comes to Oathsworn, I probably would not be playing it with if it wasn't for Colin playing with me. I would have maybe done that first mission, and that would have been it because my wife has really enjoyed playing it. She's totally given me the green light to say you can go totally ahead of me with Colin. That's totally fine, as long as you don't mind playing it again. I'm like, I don't mind playing it again. It's fantastic. So, why am I talking? There was a reason I was talking. First off, I've already ruined Marcel's life by not changing any biases. He's already told me boo after he told me what was I going to change. He said he's going to come to my house as soon as I get Aeon's Trespass.
Marcel's an interesting question here. He says, "Does Mike have any bias?" Absolutely, we all do. We all do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not gonna mention them here because I don't want to feel like I'm calling people out because it's. I mean, we all have it, and it's fine. This is more a fact that like I'm not putting people down for having them. It's more of a just be aware of what your biases are. That's what comes down to it.
Yeah, that way when someone asks about a game, you're more, when you discuss it.
Yep.
You don't come off as a jerk. That's the way to do it. Is that once you identify it, own it, and then just be like, yeah, that's just not a game I like, and you can, and that'll do that instead of being like, the game sucks because oh my god, people who play it suck too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know we're getting kind of long here. I want to cover the last couple of biases real quick, so we have everything covered here.
There's still more.
We haven't talked about the publisher one.
Oh, I thought we were still talking about video games.
Comparative bias. This is kind of similar. Well, the primacy bias is the publisher one, right? Mm-hmm. That's based upon their prior work. Like, hey, they made this really bad game up front, so I'm going to assume this game later is bad. But the comparative bias is evaluating the game based upon itself and not based upon other things around it, right? Other games around it. And I think one of them that we've kind of all agree on is maybe chip theory games. Like we've played a lot of chip theory games, the three of us, but we don't really own any of them yet. Is that correct? Am I speaking for everyone here?
I don't own any.
I owned them.
Yeah.
At one point.
Yeah.
Burn Cycle was on my table for a week, and I finally said I can't do this.
Yeah.
And there it went. Like I said before, Too Many Bones, I had all the way up to that trove chest, huge extravaganza. I had everything they'd ever made for that game, and I still couldn't get myself to play it. And so it's not that I didn't try. Right. And the other games they have, I just don't play them because they're not my style.
But it's like, so the comparative biases would be us saying like, oh, when Elder Scrolls launches for that one, we're going to assume it's not going to be great, right?
Right.
Because we're comparing to the previous examples of it, which, it doesn't matter. It's a new game. We should look at it as its own merits. Is what comes down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is why I'm like this.
Yeah, exactly.
My fingers are crossed that I'm being like, please, please be good. But I'm actually gonna give Hoplomachus Victorum a shot, and that's the thing because I want to like the company so much because they sound like from the things people have said from the things they've done, they sound like a fantastic company. So I'm like, I want to support them. I want to buy their games and get the word out because they're being super positive in the space. So I I hope so every single time they've come out with a game, I've bought it because I want that to be the one, right?
Yeah.
It's just so far it hasn't hit the mark for me. For me.
I'm in the same boat you are, Canje. I really love this company. They're from Plymouth, Minnesota. I've met them. They're really nice people.
Really nice. Yeah.
They're the most Minnesotan people you can meet. They're super nice, super outgoing. They're just they love what they do. They love what they're doing,
and you see it.
You see it.
Yeah,
you see it
exactly.
not only in themselves but the games too. Like it comes out. Like they're great people. Absolutely.
Yeah. And they've taken steps in the space that I've never seen before, which is really cool. And I want to see more of those miniatures on the chips. That was absolutely sweetness. That was pure gold. I was like, I want to keep this game just for these chip miniatures. This is awesome, kind of thing. So, I actually, this is one of the biases I think I have the least because I always want to give a game a shot.
Yeah.
And I really, even though I've heard bad things about it or something, I still want to give that game a shot. And I've been so pleasantly surprised a lot of things. I know taking on, for example, Dungeon Universalis is a very like back and forth one. And I'm glad I did because I've been enjoying this game. A lot of people are down on it because the rule book's bad. It's really a heavy game. It's hard to get into, things like that. But I got a huge community saying like, this is awesome. This is amazing. Shadows of Brimstone is another one that kind of goes back and forth with some people. Some people don't like to build the miniatures and it's just too much stuff like this. But the other people are like, oh my gosh, this is like a lifestyle game. And it really is. I've enjoyed everything about them. Right in the middle of, my last painting session, we were painting up guys for Shadows of Brimstone because I enjoyed the game so much. And I'm glad I got into it. I wasn't sure if I was going to. I just happened to get a copy of Forbidden Fortress and I'm super excited I did. And I'm glad I looked for that. So I think this is the one bias I have the least is that I love to try games. I love to play games. Any game cons will say like, hey, I got this game. You want to come try it out? Sure. Do you want to tell you about it? I'm coming over.
We're gonna play it. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's called Tiddlywinks. What you do is, I'd be like, sweet, let's play. This would be great.
I agree. So I agree, and I think Bairt's right that the three of us don't have this one as much because we're willing to give things a shot. I know. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, Powell Family Farm is here.
Snow had an interesting one. Say there's one more thing with the publisher. Seeing reminded me some people like me have a bias against the publisher based on their practices, which have nothing to do with the game.
That's the primacy bias we mentioned earlier, right? Like, I don't like this publisher, so I'm not gonna like the game, right? It comes down to it. So,
Sure, mouse style, come on over anytime.
Yeah, that's definitely very strong for certain things, for sure. All right, 2 more biases. We gotta get these real to the
point.
Let's go before. Now we're wait a minute.
We keep tangenting.
Okay, I see a trend here. I have a bias towards Steve. He has number bias. Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
No worries. Identity bias. So this one's a tough one to catch, but it is rating a game based upon what you want it to be as opposed to what it's trying to be, what's doing. And I think an example of this might be for me Battlefield Greatboard. It's got deck building in it. A lot of people refer to it as a deck builder game, but if I have to separate myself from a deck builder because I think the game is excellent. It's a really fun game. But I don't think the deck building is a great part of it, and so I have to evaluate it not as a deck builder, but as what it's trying to be, which is like this boss battler, cooperative experience with some deck building in it, right? And so making sure that we understand what the game's goals are trying to be, and we rate itself on those goals. And this is a really, really hard one to do, and I see it happening all the time with viewers. Like, oh, I wish it was this way, so I'm gonna give a negative review. I'm like, but it's not trying to be that way. It's designed to be this other way, and it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
I have identity bias because I secretly want to be Randy Macho Man Savage. Oh yeah!
Snow has another good point. So this bias has a problem. Some publishers of the same game perpetuate it. Yeah, I'm not buying into that variant. I love you, buddy, but I'm not buying into it. But the bias is a problem some publishers of said game perpetuated. That's true. Some publishers tout this game as, this is going to be epic thing, sandbox game or boss battler, and that's not what it is. Right. That's a part of it, but that's not what it is.
I've had this one happen to me where people are like, "Oh my gosh, that's so. How much did you think this game is like Kingdom Death Monster?" I'm like, the Wild Ascent is nothing like Kingdom Death Monster, but it's a boss battler. Nope, it's a miniature skirmish game. It is not a boss battler, though it was like published as a kind of like you're fighting these bosses. You're not. You're fighting against like usually 4 creatures. I mean, a boss battler maybe a big huge boss kind of thing. So it's sometimes tough when things get looped into it. But sometimes games break out of these and they can really make a new genre. Like it's like, oh, this is really well, like when people say like, oh, Kingdom Death's a boss battle, I'm like, yes, I would actually consider it a civ building boss battler, because if you don't include the civ building,
that's an important part. That's an important part of the game.
I would say that's almost half the game. So,
I
mean, sure, the boss battling takes probably longer, but if you're not doing the civilization good, you're not going to see the next boss.
So on this topic, I'll throw out 2 names, and let's see if that hits the bias or if no, it doesn't.
Bairt, Steve.
Gloomhaven. Yes. Stars of Acardus.
Oh yeah.
Like, does that hit the bias, or are they two completely like only the theme is space and not in fantasy? But are they? Do you see them as the same, or are they different? And so that hits the bias.
The issue is if you approach. I'm sorry.
The bias is the cards. It's that deck, that deck that Gloomhaven invented, I guess you could say. And I shouldn't say they invented it, but they came to more popularity in Gloomhaven is that a deck that they have, because there's no initiative deck for the enemies. There's no, I mean, they've got their own AI. It's not like the Gloomhaven where I guess you do flip over the cards, but okay, that didn't work.
Well, they don't go before you. All your characters go before you.
So yes, there's some of that, but I have seen that more than any other thing said. Oh, Stars of Acardus, Gloomhaven in space, Gloomhaven in space, Gloomhaven in space, Gloomhaven. Now it's like, I don't know. Why don't they say space 7th continent?
Yeah, or space Madara.
There's a lot of like there's a lot of building of your characters. Yeah, like you said, putting in different ship or different texts and things like that in your ship is not Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven got a deck of cards for your characters. There is no deck of cards.
So this ties into the very last bias really strongly, actually. Related missteps is what it is, and that is setting performance expectations too high or too low. So, like, when you say, hey, this is like Gloomhaven, well, Gloomhaven was it's still the number 1 game on BGG? I think it is.
Yeah, it's close.
It's up there. So now people are thinking, well, if it's like Gloomhaven, it's got to be amazing. This would be great. And now your expectations are too high, so you go into it, you're disappointed, now you rate the game lower because of that.
Okay.
Than you normally would have if you weren't overhyped. And it goes both ways. You can be underhyped as well, or performing to be a horrible game and actually really like it, and now you rate it higher than you normally would. So.
It's kind of like Star Wars Episode 1.
Yes.
Oh no!
Which episode is this? I don't remember this one.
They've only made 3 movies. What are you talking about?
But I shouldn't say that. Honestly, I do like almost everything Star Wars. There's really not much I don't.
I can't say that. I cannot say that.
See, again, this comes from the Minnesotan bias. I will say that if it wasn't for Star Wars Episode 1, that sword fight battle is probably the greatest sword fight battle in all of Star Wars between Darth Maul and those 2 guys at the end. And I could watch that over and over. It is so cool.
Duel of the Fates, and the music is.
So I mean, that to me just kind of made the movie. I mean, there's always something cool. Episode 3, General Grievous was amazing. I love that guy. So I mean, and even my son does. That was his favorite character. That and Jango Fett. Did you want to know how long it took my son? Totally off topic. To actually like look at Samuel Jackson in a decent, nice light. He hated him. You did. You hated Samuel. How long did you hate Samuel Jackson?
I just hated nice one.
Yeah, he was Samuel Jackson. We're watching a Capital One commercial, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, what's in your wallet? And Riz's like, I hate that guy. He killed Jango Fett. And it took a long time, didn't it, Ridley? So anyway, That's off topic. Yes, go ahead. Sorry. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah. So there's my Minnesota bias. I like everything.
Nice. Yeah, these are the main ones I pulled up. There's probably some more biases we can cover as well, but I think this is a good summary of a lot of them that kind of apply to the board game space, and just to be aware of. Everyone has them. It's really hard to avoid, and if you think you don't have them, you probably do. Trust
And
me.
I'll say we've been talking. I'm gonna pull a semi shelf life on this one, but I won't go too deep.
Sure.
We've been talking about board games. We've been talking about the different biases that exist in board games. But this isn't just about board games. This list consists of
Yeah.
everything that you do in your day to day and in your life. Biases exist everywhere. You step outside your house, automatically your brain starts doing these things, and these are subconscious things that happen in your mind, right? The thing that we're talking about and the discussion that we're having here is if you can recognize them, then you can begin to set your mind to either change that mentality or recognize when it happens that you can keep it in check. This is not saying that you're a terrible person. This is not saying that you are awful. All this is saying is take ownership and recognize that you have these things, and then be mindful and start doing the work to start to change that and see what you can do if you could change it. And that's what we're all doing, right? Anyway,
I agree completely with Canje. Well said, and makes me wonder too, like if you're going to review your game, if you could identify your own biases and list them out. I don't know if that'd be useful to people or not. I don't know. Just
yeah, awareness is something, man. Because if you recognize that you're doing it, I think you may approach it differently.
True.
Right.
Sure.
It's not that you're gonna not say anything. You'll just approach it differently because you're being a little bit more mindful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I know that I have that bias where I think everything's great, nothing's wrong, everything's peaches, nothing's ever going to be bad about a game. So, like I said, in order to combat that, I just don't do reviews because I know I'd always say good things. It'd be hard for me to say bad things, so I just let the game stand on its own. That's usually one of the ways I confront that one. As for the rest of them, I think it's just because of these.
Nice. Cool.
Sorry.
Are biases intrinsically bad? Isn't that part of the subject of review?
No. You said wise words, Canje. I love it.
Oh yeah. No, biases aren't intrinsically bad. They can be. It's just they affect the ratings, how people explain and talk about games is what it comes down to. It's not bad, not necessarily good. It's just to be aware of when people discuss it. I mean, they can be bad if you use it as on a platform and kind of you're not aware of the bias and then you share some information that could be misleading. So in that case, that could be positive or negative, right? Just misleading is bad.
Yeah.
But I don't think in the board game space that necessarily is something we have to worry about much because they're just kind of games for the most part. I don't know. We can think about it more. Hey, Jeremy, how much time do you spend talking about bias versus the game? People don't watch videos for bias.
People don't watch videos for bias. People get influenced by bias.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference is that they'll say, yeah, I want to watch you play the game. But while you're playing the game, if your bias is flooding out onto it and you're saying like, I hate this mechanic, I don't like this. There are people, and I'm not saying everybody, but there are people who get influenced by that and won't try the game because you said it's terrible.
It's true.
So it's not, they're not watching it for the bias, but they can be influenced by your bias.
Correct. I remember distinctly, I won't name names here or anything, but there was someone was asking, hey, what did this one reviewer rate the game? A 4. Okay, that means I can skip it or whatever. Like, but what does that mean? Like, how can you make that call based upon a number? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's tough sometimes. So cool. Okay. Well, I know we've been talking for a long time. I think it's about time to wrap this one up. Real quick, do you guys want to do a recap of what's coming up next week for you guys? Baron, you want to start?
This was a good topic, Steve. Thank you. This is a nice, fun, deep topic. We're going to come back with something lighthearted next week. Like whose biceps are biggest. That's going to be our thing next. No, it's not. I lied. This week, coming up on Meet Me at the Table, we have Bairt and Colin meeting together on Tuesday to be able to perform the fifth story in Oathsworn. We are going to dominate the story mode. Come join us for the fun and biased opinions of what we think. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to bias. We're going to play the fifth story mission in Oathsworn. It's going to be lots of fun. I'm super excited to do it. Colin and I are having a fantastic time playing this game. We can't stop. We're actually supposed to do Stars Vicarious next week, but we're going to put that on hold because we're having so much fun with Oathsworn. But we are planning to come back to Stars Vicarious maybe next week or something. But anyway, that's coming up on Tuesday. It's my only live stream other than my painting stream that I do on Monday, which I am hoping to be joined by, where is he he's over there. He's over there. I can see because I got my YouTube thing over there. Canje, I think is going to join me on Monday for Painting with Gals. We're going to be painting some Oathsworn together. That's going to be awesome. I have to admit, I'm looking forward to it a lot. Canje. It's going to be fantastic. On top of that, I think I'm going to also try to get my second. I ended on a cliffhanger in Dungeon Universalis, so we're going to continue our campaign in that in the future. I hope to have that up on Friday next week. We'll see if that happens because I got my Mondays back. I have my Mondays back. I have my Mondays back. For people that don't know, I'm a nurse. I work 10-hour shifts Tuesday through Friday, so I do have every Monday off. But during the summer, it's hard for me to record on Monday afternoons, which is usually when I record because my kids and family are home in the summer as well. So now that they're back to school, I have my Mondays back. I have my Mondays back. I have my Mondays back. So I'm pretty excited. Anyway, and I probably look like a terrible father saying that. That's not what I meant at all. I enjoyed the summer. We had fantastic times, but it's good to be able to get some time. Anyway, wow. Did I put a double shot of espresso in this today?
or whiskey? What's going on?
Anyway, so those are the three things I'm working towards. But of course, you know me, things may change as time goes on. Canje, what are you doing? I bet you got way more planned than I do.
So today, right after this at 11, I'm gonna be painting with Brian from Cave of Adventure. So I am actually going to be painting the Witch from Oathsworn, which will be my character that I'll be playing once I understand how to play the game. So that's today. Tomorrow, that's at 11 today. Tomorrow, I'll be playing Twilight Inscription. Monday, I'm gonna see about getting so I can paint Mama Broodrat with you on Painting with Pals. Tuesday, Marvel United and Robinson Crusoe. Thursday, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with Kim, Steve, Jack, Howard, and we got a space for one more person. So it's gonna be a crazy, full-on, crazy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge playthrough. And Friday, Gloomhaven Fridays, which is Gloomhaven Digital with Kate, Cynthia, and whoever's next on the rotation for this next guest. Oh my god, that's Saturday Won't Stop Coopshop, so that's my week.
That's it?
That's all you're doing,
I would like to mention my Raphael bias. I am biased towards Raphael. I play his character is the only guy I play in TMNT when I play. He's my favorite.
I'm gonna do Donatello. I'm a Donatello guy.
My wife's bias is that Bairt's bias is that I love any game that is so large it will irritate her.
yeah, fuck yeah. I gotta. Well, the thing is I really wish I could do this full time, and not because it's as a career, but it's because I love. Like I found that I'm so pissed at myself. I've said this a couple times that I've missed playing board games for 3/4 of my life because I mean I was playing sports and football and baseball and being a jock, but I still enjoyed. But once I found board gaming, I was like, this is where I was supposed to be all along. So I'm so happy that I'm playing as much as I can. Steve, what do you got coming?
I have a bonus stream tonight, actually. We're going to be doing the Marvel United Top 20 Villains rankings. So, yeah.
MODOK in there is number one?
Spoilers! We'll see. No, I've officially played all the villains, and so I'm doing my best. I think it's like 69 villains in their game, something ridiculous. So I'm going to do just the top 20 of them. So, we'll see what winds up being on number one tonight. And then, let's see. Next week is going to be a fairly standard week. We continue with the Pandemic Legacy Season 0, going on to June, month of June. Wednesday will be Marvel United after Canje wins. So we'll continue that campaign.
I played Vulture last night. Ooh.
Vulture. Oh, I struggle with him. I think I've beat him like twice ever. He's really difficult. At least my experience. And then Friday will be Marvel Champions, of course. Continue that, and then Saturday morning, co-op chat.
It's always tough to beat Michael Keaton in anything because he's amazing.
Well said.
Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for watching. It was always a pleasure talking to you, Bairt and Canje. So this is always
it's a pleasure talking with you as well. And I'm telling y'all, this isn't just our chat. This is how we talk to all the time. We tangent. We just talk about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And poor Steve having to put up with both of our squirrel brains.
Come back!
Exactly. I'm just waiting for them to start making signs that say like, "Stop, Bairt. Let's just stop talking."
Oh, I have an idea for next stream. Okay.
Like a flashing alert.
Oh, great. Cool. Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you at the next stop. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.